back to the Ref Show, still in the company of Keith Hackett and with Mark Lawrenson this week on the programme. José Mourinho's occupied quite a lot of our time over the previous 2 weeks, and we can't let this week go either. You made reference in the first half, Mark, to the fuss that there might have been had he been in the stadium with that penalty claim at the weekend at Stoke. Do you think it was right that he wasn't in the stadium, that there was a stadium ban?
Yeah, I do, because you find him 40 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand, not making any difference to him. He's on about 12 million quid a year, so it's just a drop in the ocean. So what's the worst thing that can happen to any manager? Not being able to see his team play. There can be nothing more frustrating.
He was evidently in communication, though.
Yeah, well, that's you can't.
You saw them behind laptops.
That. Yeah, you can't stop that, though, can you?
Did you not think that was pathetic, that highly paid coaches and players apparently couldn't get on with the job without having to talk to somebody who wasn't even at the ground?
It is a little bit, but then if you really look at it slightly differently, Alan, is they are his men, and they go everywhere with him. So I wasn't surprised.
Punishment fit the crime then, because the FA, Keith, took the rare step of actually revealing what Mourinho allegedly said to John Moss, the referee, or what Moss said in his report.
I worry about that bit, because out there in the local parks next week, everybody's going to be José Mourinho, and some of the junior referees are going to have to put up with that, as though it's part of the sort of norm. I think people involved in the game know the limits and bounds that you can go to, and the extremes that you can go to without an overreaction from a referee. And there is a point at which you can do it, and the right way and the wrong way. And he often chooses the wrong way. And I don't think it's passion. You know, for me, I go back, and I don't go back that often, but the reality is, I was fortunate when I refereed, because there were people there, managers there, and Mark was privy to some of those days. I mean, I can remember going to Liverpool, and there was no better atmosphere than Anfield as a referee. I've said it times many, and refereeing out there and being involved with players of Mark's reputation. You never saw the manager. You never saw the manager lose his cool. I never, you know, I occasionally had a guy called Mr. Smith, who was the chairman of the club, come in.
John Smith.
And he'd come in and go, "Thank you very much for coming to Anfield. We much appreciate your performance. Thank you." And that's how it was. And now it's all part of the norm that we've come to accept. And if the manager's not going all this cavorting and doing all these silly things, then the spectators are saying he's not passionate. No. There's a level at which I think we've suddenly become sidetracked from the game, when in fact what we should be doing is concentrating on all the skill sets that the players are demonstrating to us.
Keith,
week in, week out.
I've got to be, I'm in a neutral corner, but I so much agree with what you're saying. It's too much of a circus sideshow, yeah, Mark?
Yeah, but I quite like the fact they've published what was said, just because it's Mourinho's every single week, and it's almost like saying, yeah, tell you what, you're the audience, people who read the papers, whatever, and go and everything. You decide. What would you have done in that? And this is what you don't want it every single week. Excuse me, and I don't think it'll happen every single week. But I think it was like he's pushed them so far. It's like, well, this is what we're dealing with here, by the way.
I mean, we've got to again look at the depth of what the Premier League have done. The Premier League are very defensive about the image of the game. And when I was there, we decided, first of all, instead of policemen policing, if you like, the referees, we would introduce the former managers and former players to be able to look at referees' performances, to be able to have a 3-day window in which they can talk to managers about the referee's performance, and then all that is inputted into the refereeing, if you like, family, so that we all learn from a different perspective. Then we have get on with the game, get on with each other, which I help to promote on the basis that in the past, former referees before me would say, you guys aren't using the captains well enough, and you should get a working relationship. That's part of the game. And then, of course, there's the pre-match, 1 hour before kick-off, the manager's allowed to come in, and then 20 minutes after the game, the manager can go in and discuss objectively with the referees. All those things have evolved over the years. When I first got on the Football League in the 70s, we had nothing. It was them and us, and we developed our own personality, our own relationship. And now, front of the house, Chelsea Football Club is not the players, it's José Mourinho.
About the manager. That wasn't the case when you played for some revered managers at Liverpool Football Club, Mark, was it? They kind of stayed out the way. Your focus was on you lot.
Yeah, but I think you've also got to look, I'm not being funny, you used to win every week. Yeah. So it wasn't, you didn't have too much aggravation and you weren't kind of contesting all the decisions. And it's like people, I talked to ex-managers now who'd been in charge when they came to Anfield and said, oh, you always got penalties down at the Kop end. And I used to say, well, you know why? Because like 95% of the 90 minutes were parked in your penalty area, so what do you expect? But, you know, that's just the way it is. I like my referees to have like a personality. And even like, you know, a little bit of a joke or whatever, or, you know, because you've heard all those, like, oh, referee, you got that one wrong. Said, oh, you're playing well. I like that. I think it helps. The only problem is now you've got so many foreign players, you're not quite sure if they actually understand.
There's also a heck of a lot of lip readers out there as well. So if a referee did exchange that kind of banter,
but I don't see it being a problem.
Report him or...
Well, yeah. I mean, the country's full of bleeding hearts anyway when something happens, isn't it? That's just the way it is. But... I mean, Clattenburg did Madrid, PSG. It was great. It was absolutely great. And by the way, because you know what Madrid are like at home, every time the ball's in the air, in the opposite area, it's a penalty. Yeah. And there was, it's like you refereed like you didn't even know he was there. And as I said before, that's the best.
Well done to him. We also look at the Championship. You see a bit of the Championship, Mark, I know, because you're a Preston North End supporter. I was at Huddersfield Leeds on Saturday, West Yorkshire derby, with a rather false scoreline. Leeds winning 3-0, but 3 terrific goals. Steve Evans' team, of course, there. Graham Scott refereeing. Even Evans admitted he should have been a man down in the first half. This was Scott Wootton.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no question. The one that is going to damage an opponent, i.e. goes in and he's gone over the top, which he did, Wootton should have gone. There's no question about it. And a referee can't defend that. At the end of the day, it's that damaging tattle physically that you cannot allow any sort of, if you like, give and take on it.
A fine line between understanding the nature of a derby, and this was a physical derby, more physical than most these days.
Well, end of career tackles are just, you know, absolutely no. But you know, you talk about Steve Evans. You know who's worse than him on the line is his assistant, Paul Rayner, who, by the way, played for North End. He wouldn't say boo to a goose. Have you seen him on the line now? He's absolutely raving bonkers, by the way. When Rotherham played Preston in the playoffs, Rotherham deserved to win, home and away. They were better than we were. He was like a man possessed.
Why the transformation then between this quiet player and this raving coach then?
I would really seriously love to. I think there's an hour's documentary there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Should we do it?
I'm sure.
Okay, Nottingham Forest versus Derby. You could certainly do a documentary on that. It was a shock win for Forest. Simon Hooper was refereeing. Roger Dilks had a good look at that performance. Roger, being our ref cam manager, said good positioning and foul recognition, but needs to penetrate the box more and stop ball watching.
Sounds like a player.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
I think that's the danger of the modern referee. You know, the game is much quicker than it used to be. Referees have got to be fitter, and as a result, if they're not looking right physically, if you like, and I know that the fitness guy at the PGMOL looks at BMI and all those sort of things to improve, but if referees are not penetrating the area, then there's a problem.
And ball watching especially, what a cardinal sin that is.
Well, I mean, when we educate referees, the first thing we say to young referees is, look, stop looking at the ball. Spectators look at the ball. Players look at the ball. The ball never commits an offence. It's the players who commit offence, so keep an eye on players.
And just finally, Brighton maintaining this long unbeaten record, credit to them, beating MK Dons. But Dean Whitestone refereeing here, and apparently there was an absolute stonewall penalty not given, a foul by Dunk on Carruthers. Terrible decision, said Carl Robinson, as bad as I've seen that call. So it really was a game changer.
Well, it happens, doesn't it? I memean, I always think with those things, you'd like, and I don't know why they don't do it, you'd like the referee to actually tell you why you didn't give it. I think that's an area that should be much better at, because you know, you want to know his opinion. don't you?
Yeah, I mean, if you take that one earlier that we talked about, the player jumping over the goalkeeper, there's some referees who would say that's a penalty kick because he's impeded. Not for me.
No, there's so much debate about that. I always think that when there's a lot of disagreements and debate and nobody's instantly sure, you've got to side with the referee, really, haven't you?
Absolutely. But also by the same token, if the referee's not 100% sure, then he doesn't give anything.
Correct.
Excellent. Great note to finish on. Mark, it's been terrific hosting you in the studio with Keith. Keith will probably be back sooner than you think. We might even have you back sometime on the show, Mark.
Careful.
Not extinguished, distinguished. Thanks for your company. See you for another Ref Show next week. Bye.